Welcome to Grinderslive. Hey, this isn't the pregame show, but it's close. It's close. 25 minutes later than I'm normally up in the morning with my apple juice as usual. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the thummy thumbs, keep my apple juice cold, all the stuff we normally do for the pregame show. Who cares about yesterday's slate? We're not going to review that because we got a day slate. We got day baseball. We got 10 games. Half the lineups aren't in, of course, because they're at 4 o'clock. So who knows? I mean, we'll project them. I mean, some of these catchers may not play because they caught last night. So who knows what these starting lineups are going to be? But I'm joined by Dan Gaspar, Mr. Tuttle 05. I believe Tuttle. This is the first time we've ever. I've been here for 2 years. I think this is the first time we've ever done a show together.
Yeah, I think it is. And I wasn't awake. I've had coffee already. I've had a Red Bull, and nothing woke me up like that intro. The intro is what got me excited.
Right, you got some alarm clock goes off and like it's time to play DFS, and it's 11 in the morning and we don't have to deal with NBA yet. So like it's a good day.
It is.
The thing that we have to worry about in baseball, like am I getting too spoiled now with baseball that it's like, oh my God, the 4 o'clock game lineups aren't out, and then like in NBA people are just getting scratched 5 minutes after lock. 3 guys are out here, and it's like I don't even know how you deal with that because I'm done with NBA for the season.
Yeah, I keep up with it because I have to, but I would be glad if the season.
What a ringing endorsement, because you have to.
It's not fun anymore. I mean, we'll get to that part of the season in baseball too, when we're on game 150 and we just want to be done. But towards the end of the year, it's amplified with basketball and all the injuries and all the scratches.
Well, on today's 10-game MLB slate on both sites, DraftKings, FanDuel, it's a slate where finally we get to the top of the rotation again. So we're not dealing with, fifth starters, fourth starters. I mean, some of them are, I guess. So we have a good amount of pitching options on the slate. To start the season, we always see that the sites tend to have pretty soft pricing. So in the past week, we haven't needed to necessarily even play like 6K pitchers, but now they've kind of priced down some people that like they're cheap enough that they're SP2s, but on any other slate, we'd be playing them as SP1s. So on DraftKings particularly, I think the combinations you can make a pitcher are much more plentiful than they've been the past couple of days.
Yeah, it's actually a really, really fun slate. I think there is going to be one complete chalk starting pitcher, Shane Bieber. But then after that, I think the combinations, they're, like you said, they're plentiful. And it'll be interesting to see where ownership ends up, just because I do think there are so many pretty decent SP2 options that you can choose from that it should be an easy way to differentiate your lineup without just going completely stupid.
Right, that's on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I don't know if Bieber is going to be as popular because we have Bieber at 11.5 on FanDuel, Bauer at 11K, but then there's a drop off to Snell.
Yep.
And then you have Flaherty at 7,900 on FanDuel. Now, I'm not even sure on a one-pitcher site like FanDuel with the pricing they have over there that, like, we have in the bat, Flaherty is the top point per dollar pitcher on FanDuel, but, like, raw points matter, and if you play Flaherty at 7,900, you almost can't even spend all your money on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, would you rather play someone like Snell for the price savings? Are you concerned about, we always think of the Snell as someone that, may not go 110 pitches, but, Trevor Bauer, we're never concerned about a leash. Bieber would never concern about a leash. Do you think the money that you save, the extra, 1,200 or so, depending on who you pick, is going to matter that much on FanDuel? Or are you more inclined to take the savings?
I mean, 9 out of 10 times I just take the highest projected pitcher on FanDuel for cash games. And that's going to be the case again today. Like you said, their pricing is just so soft that like the downgrades, quote unquote downgrades, or that you're taking at here are negligible across the board to get in somebody like Bieber over Snell. So Bieber is the guy, I think, in cash games on FanDuel too. It will be interesting once again to see how ownership is spread out on FanDuel, because you have a guy like Jack Flaherty, who you mentioned, who is, I mean, seemingly way, way underpriced. But again, I'm not sure he's entirely necessary on this slate, but I kind of expect his tournament ownership to be, maybe in that 20% range just because of his price tag.
Yeah, and I think on FanDuel especially, you're probably I mean, there's going to be tons of pitchers that are going to be 1% owned, but I think they should be because of the hitting pricing being so soft.
Yep.
Like it's not one of these slates like we had the slate before with DeGrom, and he was like the only ace on the slate. So it's like if he fails, not necessarily get blown up. I mean, on that slate he only pitched 77 pitches, so like you didn't need him. Right. He got 24 points. He got, but other May and Rodon outscored him. He would have been the highest scoring pitcher had he pitched 100 plus pitches, but he didn't. But on this slate, it's not like, well, if you don't play Bieber, if Bieber fails, I'll pay down a pitcher. We have multiple guys. So if you're going to pay down for Flaherty at 7,900 on FanDuel, with the pricing being soft where you could pretty much almost can't even spend the rest of your money, like you're saying that Flaherty is going to outscore all three of the higher pitchers, and that's the way that you win a GPP. But it's hard to figure that Flaherty has a better shot of outscoring both Bieber, Snell, and Bauer on the same slate. You still have Nola there also. He's going to go under-owned against the Mets. But I think these other pitchers, like if you're going to play a cheap pitcher, like maybe Woodruff, maybe. I mean, it just the FanDuel pricing is just too soft that I'm not even sure I'm going to be building 100 lineups on FanDuel. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be unless I leave 2,000 or 3,000 on the table. I just don't see how you even fit in any of these pitchers other than the top three.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too, because like Flaherty, so I think Flaherty is the clear option in that under 8K range on FanDuel, even if we include Ryu, so like that 8,200 and below range. Like I think he's the clear top option. But if you pitch him, again, the pricing is so soft that there's going to be a pretty obvious build where you just pay up at every other position. So curious on what you're planning on to do with exposure to Flaherty as opposed to somebody like you just mentioned with Woodruff. So like we know the build's going to be similar, and assuming Woodruff is going to come in, a quarter owned on Flaherty, does that make you like him more in tournaments or not necessarily?
Well, I think I'm going to be more inclined to get different by leaving money on the table.
Yeah, that's so what I've pitch Flaherty, but just leave money.
Right. Like so, essentially, I'm playing the same lineup as if I were to be playing Snell.
Right.
But I just have Flaherty there instead.
And hope he outscores Snell.
But like I said, with multiple ace pitchers on the slate, I'm less inclined to do that. We have enough bats, and the pricing is soft enough that I could leave money on the table. I could take Bieber and leave money on the table by playing a four-man twin stack without Cruz in it. Right. Leaving money on the table with a hitter, to me, is more advantageous than leaving money on the table with a pitcher. Because essentially, let's say I play a 4-4 and I move from Bieber down to Flaherty. It's like, what's the difference? How am I getting much different from those Bieber lineups? I mean, like if I'm just a 1v1 pitcher, like how much I'd rather just say, okay, I'm gonna take the 2% owned stack. Right. And just play raw points at pitch. Just give me raw points at pitcher on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's a little bit different story. Because on DraftKings, I think Flaherty is going to go heavily owned.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the slate. What I would normally do is stack against the chalk SP2 and play the Marlins against him. That's not out of the question. But I don't think the leverage is worth it at that point. I think I'd just rather have Flaherty not have a great game and then take someone like Woodruff or Pablo Lopez or Ryu, or like I'm not taking Luzardo against the Dodgers. I almost don't want to take anyone against the Dodgers this year, no matter what.
Right. Yeah,
so
looking at
that's a better course of action, because I know people will ask me, "Oh, Flaherty's going to be chalk SP2." Right? You typically don't stack against SP1s like Bieber. Like I'm not going to take the Royals against Bieber.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take the Giants against Snell. Right? I'm not going to take where's Bauer? I'm not going to take the A's against Bauer. I mean, you can take one-offs, I guess, but like not full-on 5-man stacks. But like Flaherty to me, really on this slate on DraftKings should be like a $9,200 pitcher, and he's underpriced. But there's there's a non-zero chance that like there's plenty of other pitchers that could outscore him. That to take a 32% owned SP2, like I could play kind of chalky stacks and just move. I could play on DraftKings Snell, Lopez. And it's like, do I have to worry about the ownership of my stacks much anymore? Like there's so many combinations of pitchers that you can make that I don't really even care about my stack ownership at that point.
What do you think the owner, so combined, so how, what percentage of lineups will have one of Bieber or Bauer in it?
Well, we can just take a look based on our projected ownership. It's going to be about 70%.
And there's some overlap there, right? Because they could.
Well, I mean, you could. On DraftKings, you can make Bieber Bauer lineups. I mean,
yeah, you can make it fit.
Yeah, you can make it fit. You're playing a lot, some 3K. You're playing garlic in your twin state. You're playing some Kim as a one-off. For the Padres. I mean, you could make it happen. Those are the types of lineups I like making, but I just don't know if they're necessary to make.
Yeah.
But so are you saying that maybe a good way to differentiate on this slate, especially with the pricing being like we have like clear like value type plays, that maybe playing a lineup like Flaherty plus Woodruff,
right,
and just like almost overspending for your like a stack that's off the board, that people that are playing Bieber or Bauer and just can't get to.
Yeah, I love Bieber, and it's like the guy had like a 41K rate last season, and very small sample, but he's a strikeout pitcher, which makes him a scary fade. But yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to. Is I think probably the best way to differentiate on DraftKings today is just to take two of those pitchers under 10K or two pitchers under 10K. I think immediately that's going to give you a unique build.
Right. You could stack a team like Cleveland. You could stack a team like the Dodgers. I mean, I think the Dodgers, we're going to see some slates where the Dodgers are going to go under-owned, like we saw the other night, where it's just like you can't pay up for them, and they're not in a good, they opened the season in Colorado, so obviously they're in a great spot. But some of these more expensive teams, like the White Sox even, like they're in a good situation against Dunn. He walks a ton. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of on DraftKings, there's a lot of two-man combinations that project well, that like, I'm not sure do you go with the chalk? Do you not go with the chalk? I think hitter-wise, if we take a look at Slate IQ, I know we're talking about pitcher, but I think you have to treat your whole lineup, the full lineup. According to Slate IQ, as of right now, we don't have like all the lineups in. Like the percentage chance on DraftKings of these stacks are very dispersed. Like we don't have a slate where it's like one stack's 11%, the next one's 6%. It's like we have Minnesota at 5.7%, then Milwaukee at 5.4, Chicago 5.3, 5. We have like between 3% and 5%, we have like half the slate. So with Minnesota and Milwaukee kind of generating a whole ton of ownership, like do you think that you could just play a chalk pitcher combination and just and play some of these, like all these stacks are kind of equal? Like isn't like almost a kind of a dumbed down strategy of like just go where the field isn't hitter wise, and then just whatever two pitchers out of the good 6 pitchers on the slate, just however it fits.
Yeah. It's a big enough slate where I'm not overly worried about overall ownership. And like you said, some of these, I'm on Slate IQ now too, and so you like look at some of the total ownership of some of these stacks that we have projected, like Chicago Cubs, but we have a 57% projected ownership, and we still have them as the third most likely stack to win the slate. So like I'll automatically just play a Chicago stack, and you're probably not looking at chalk at all. Just something like that, and you can eat chalk at pitching then too. You can eat the Shane Bieber and even Flaherty chalk perhaps.
Right, I think you could play a Bieber Flaherty combination and still play a 5-man stack and be perfectly fine with it. There's no like clear obvious stacks on this slate.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't think so. I mean, really there aren't. we have the game in Chicago. That is a weather game that is on Roth's report. But he doesn't think that there'll be any impact. Few light showers possible before during game. He doesn't expect there to have any impact. Obviously, the winds are blowing out 10 to 15 miles an hour. Temperatures are in the 70s. Probably the best hitting weather on the slate. But I mean, and also Milwaukee. I don't know what DraftKings is doing. I mean, Milwaukee is, I would say, 10% too cheap. But they've been
They
10% too
have been,
cheap
yeah.
like the whole since the start
and
of the
it
season.
and it hasn't been pretty.
It worked out yesterday.
Yeah, what? Well, Narvaez got there. Wong was decent.
Right, Vogelbach got for he was cheap. I mean, yeah, the stack didn't get there GPP wise, but for like their value in
Yeah, the
general.
one-offs for cash or whatever.
Right,
was
yeah,
fine.
like
yeah,
they were fine. But I mean, but that's also going to make them, popular in Bieber, Flaherty. Like to me,
yes,
like
100%. Go
right,
somewhere else.
Bieber,
with
Flaherty
Bieber
plus a
Flaherty
5-man
stakes.
Milwaukee stack is something that like I would avoid
Yes, 100%.
in large field GPPs. Unless you're playing a 5-man Milwaukee stack with, I mean, you're going to play Yelich in that stack, but I mean, you're playing it with, like, who else is in their lineup today? Like, you're playing
It's
Lorenzo
going to be very
Cain.
top 5 oriented for sure.
Right. And so instead of Avi Garcia, you're playing Lorenzo Cain or something.
Yeah.
Or instead of, you're playing Luis Urias batting 8th or something. Like, yeah, then I guess you could do it. But these ownerships on Milwaukee, 19, 18, 19, 17, like that combination. A lot of people don't realize that that MLB is not like NBA, where like NBA, if you told me that two guys were 50% owned, you'd be like, well, the chances of like both of them being in the same lineups in the contest would be like 25%, right? Because that would be like the simple math. But that doesn't take into account correlation. So when people look at like Milwaukee and go, oh, well, it's 19, 18, 19, 17, 19 for Narvaez. And they go, well, if I multiply all 5 numbers, like that's like 1% of lineups. It's like, no, lineups that have Yelich in it are more likely to have Hura in it, are more like people stack in MLB. So like you have to think of the aggregate ownership of the whole stack and go like, how many lineups will have this chalk Milwaukee stack? Like it could be 12% of all lineups in the contest. In total. So how to get off of that. And also, like facing Kyle Hendricks, I know his first start wasn't that good, but it's not like he's a pushover or anything. He could limit contact. I mean, oh, there's wind. Oh, well, I mean, Hendricks could keep the ball on the ground. So to me, I think with the way that Slate IQ shows it, where there's no like stack you must have, and Milwaukee's the top one of just a bunch of guys in the same kind of range. Like I'm less inclined on DraftKings to like to me I don't even want to play these guys as one-offs at these ownerships and just say Milwaukee puts up 2 runs on Hendricks. I mean, it's not like they get shut out or anything, but just like the stack fails and no individual hitter, has many points. So on DraftKings, like I'm playing on FanDuel. FanDuel, they're going to be lower owned, but on DraftKings at these prices, if you're going to play that Milwaukee stack, I think that's where you get different at pitcher.
Is Hira still for free on FanDuel?
Yeah, he's 2,700. What are they doing? It's just certain people. It's just certain players.
It's so annoying. It's so annoying. And then it almost like forces your hand to play those guys in cash games. And yeah.
The other chalk stack, Minnesota.
Yeah, they're the ones I see pot. Like I had to fill in. I do the premium summary, so I look at the expert surveys every day. Yeah, people are all over Minnesota
on both sides. Mitch Garver is 2,100 on FanDuel.
Yes.
Like what's going on?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's a catcher. I don't care. He's batting leadoff. But similar to Hendricks, like Matt Boyd actually pitched well his first start. Like Matt Boyd is at times can be considered an ace. Now the Twins are going to throw literally 9 righties at him.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
And he allows power, which Hendricks doesn't quite as much.
Right. But he does generate strikeouts. So like from a stack perspective, if Boyd could still come out and strike out 8 guys while still giving up 5 runs, do you think that the stack is going over owned? Like I could see playing the Twins as one-offs, three-mans. Like if they're going to be a chalky stack, I
Yeah.
could see how the stack fails just due to, it's going to be 3 home runs. And then as long as you have those 3 guys, the other 2 guys in your stack just don't get there. Like they have
Yeah.
3 points, they have 5 points or something like that. So do you think the Twins are going over owned? Even though like once you include Garlic at 2,300 and Polanco at 3,400, like it's a pretty cheap stack.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it'll go over own. I don't have an updated lineup for them.
Yeah, didn't Rooker just get put on the injured list?
Yeah, do they have a lineup out?
Yeah, they have a lineup out, but we have news
Why
that
do I
Brent
not?
Rooker was just placed on the 10-day IL, but he's in our lineup as batting 6th. So I don't
Let
know
me
if they put
see.
out a new lineup yet. If anyone sees
Yeah.
that in the YouTube chat, let us know.
Yeah, if we get an updated lineup, I would love to know that.
Well, who
And
did they put there?
I feel like maybe we pulled in a wrong lineup too. Not to call us out because I didn't see one. I didn't see a tweet from one from their. Let me look at their account. Because basically what I'm looking, I wanted to confirm that Nelson Cruz is in the lineup. And
right. I mean, we have him in 3rd.
he's the easiest way. Well, hey, he's the easiest way to differentiate your stack. Just don't put him in your stack, right?
Yeah, but how do you play the Twins? Like, how do you play Cruz against the left? How do you do that? It's Cruz against lefties. You got it, right?
He's gonna be so on. Like he's got the hot streak thing going for him too, right? Like he's hit I think 3 home runs in the last 2 games or so. Yeah, 3 home runs the last 2 games. He's gonna be so high owned, so high owned.
Well, I think Buxton also. He's 3,900.
Yep.
I mean that stack of like Garver, like on FanDuel, Garver, Cruz, Polanco, Buxton, like there's your truck twin stack.
Yeah. So if you want to go chalk pitch, like we kind of mentioned, I wouldn't go chalk pitching with some of these stacks. If you wanted to go chalk pitching with the Minnesota stack, just take Nelson Cruz out of there, man. Like there is a way where they're careful around him. He racks up a couple walks. Like you don't want him in your GBP lineup if that's the case. Like you definitely want to go underweight on him.
Yeah, but if the Twins put up 10 runs, most likely Cruz is involved in that somehow.
Yeah, but I mean Boyd does have a history of fairly high walk rates. He struggled with control his first game.
So yeah, but you want the guys in the middle of the order. Why are you going to play Cruz? You're going to skip him? To me, it's more likely that I would play someone like Sano over Buxton or over Garver. Like you play Astudillo over Garver in the catcher spot. Like you still play Cruz and still have a twin stack that is it still has three or four chalk pieces, but you have one guy that's like 3% owned, and it's like if that's the guy that has the 23-pointer, you'll need them in your stack.
Or I mean, probably the wiser way to do it is fade Kyle Garlick, who's going to be owned just because of where he's batting, his price tag, right?
Right.
So probably smarter than fading the
right.
Right. You fade the not as talented hitter that's going to be still extremely high owned, just because of the spot in the order and the price tag. That's probably the better way to do it.
Right. So outside of the Brewers and the Twins, which should be the chalk stacks on the slate. I mean, to some extent, they're not going to be like super duper, but they'll be the most owned. What other teams are you looking at stack wise to get away from them?
I am very curious to see White Sox ownership. I think it will be spread out a little bit, and they're pretty tough to fit on DraftKings specifically because they're extremely expensive there. FanDuel, let's take a look. They're completely accessible on FanDuel, most of these guys. DraftKings a lot of their main guys are very expensive. Talked about Dunn having some control problems. Seattle, Safeco is really not as bad on home runs. It's pretty neutral. Like it's thought of as a pitcher's park, but it's pretty neutral for home runs. So, White Sox have a ton of power in their lineup individually, and they're one of the teams I can see, hitting 5 home runs on this slate. So White Sox, I think, would be kind of my next favorite stack of the bunch, and hope that they don't get too much ownership here.
I can't see them. Luis Robert is 5,900.
Yeah, he's very high priced on DK.
And then also like Grandal is 5,500 and Mercedes is 4,100, and they're both just catcher eligible.
Yep.
So you're gonna obviously have a problem. You have to play either one of them. And I think if people play White Sox stacks, they're gonna play Mercedes because apparently he's the best player in baseball.
I didn't know what the guy looked. Have you seen what he looks like?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know what he looked like the first night, opening night. Saw him step to the plate. I'm like, I am glad I have this guy in my lineup.
Well, he was $2,000. That's why.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. There was no reason that anyone owned him other than the fact that he was the cheapest catcher.
Yeah.
But yeah, on DraftKings, I don't see the White Sox being owned. I mean, the stack is just way expensive. Rightfully so. I think it's overpriced. But
So
I mean, we're talking about baseball. It's high variance sport. So I mean, the White Sox also have one of the higher totals. They put up 12 runs and no one else does. Do you win? I mean, it doesn't. At that point, the salary doesn't matter.
Right. Do you think my question here is, if I'm going to stack the White Sox, do you think their price tags will force a certain build where you are then going to have to do a little something different at pitcher?
No.
Or do you think they're just low enough?
Look at the ownership of this. I'll play Flaherty, Woodruff. Why not?
Yeah.
Flaherty, Snell. You could do so. You could still play them.
Okay.
I mean, Eaton is 4K, so it's this stack is not like absurd.
Right.
Right. Even if you're going to play Lurie Garcia in a shortstop spot for or Madrigal just to have a scarce position, and I don't mind the bottom of the order on the road team as much. So
right.
So like it's not going to be that costly. I probably want to have Robert, Abreu, Moncada, and Grandal, or one of the two catchers.
Yep.
And then it's like, do I want to fill an outfield spot with a 4K Eaton, or fill a shortstop spot or a second base spot with a 3K middle infielder? Probably the middle infielder. Yep. Then once you get to that, I mean, what, 4% plus 4% plus 3? I mean, the highest owned guy is 5%. So, like the whole total stack ownership is going to be less than 1%. It's going to be like 1%. So why can't I play the chalk pitchers there?
Yeah.
Even in large field. I mean, I'm not even talking about single entry. I'm just like, but you still have 3 of the spots in your lineup also. So so don't play Nelson Cruz as a one-off in that lineup. There you go. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good idea to begin with? If twin stacks are going to be chalky, and Cruz is going to be the most owned part of that twin stack, and he's also going to be one of the most owned one-offs, that if you're not stacking the twins, just don't play Nelson Cruz as a one-off in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, what do we have? Let me see. What do we have on Nelson Cruz ownership? I think we're low, aren't we? 15%?
Yeah, I think we're low.
I think we're low.
I think it'll be more owned on FanDuel because you can.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised at the White Sox projected ownership here. And I have another take. I for some reason I like these later start games. The unowned stack. Well, I guess the White Sox are classified as that based on current ownership. We have higher ownership on a stack that I thought would be lower owned, and that's the Padres against Gausman. But I actually like the Padres more as a place to farm one-offs than I do like the team as a stack. With Tatis now injured, it's more like a 2-3 man stack type for me. But Gausman has struggled with home run problems in the past. I think he looked good. Like he was lacked a little velo in his opening start, and he got away with it just because he was playing against the Mariners. Like anybody can go and get 6 strikeouts against the Mariners. So I think people will shy away from Gausman. I'm not completely sold that he's some.
He's not going to be owned. He's 7,600. I mean, Flaherty's right there. Woodruff's right there.
I want to take the other side of it though. I want to take Manny Machado as a one-off. I want to take Tommy Pham as a one-off. He's a guy that allows a lot of. He's not a bad pitcher, but he allows a lot of power on occasion, right? So like, give me Machado, give me Pham, Cronenworth potentially as well, Myers. Give me those.
Do you also think that some of these 4:00 game lineups are going to be less owned because
we don't have them?
Aren't out yet?
Yeah, I mean that's we do see that on occasion for sure.
The Angels, I always remember the Angels being under-owned because their lineup would never be out by lock. So people are like, I don't know if I can play Darren Fletcher in my stack, so I'm just not going to bother playing them. I'm like, that's stupid. Take them out and put someone else in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hope for my own sake that that's the case. that these guys, because they are the stacks that I think I like the best. Like I think Toronto Texas game is going to be pretty owned as well from those early games. So we'll probably see. I think we'll see a lot of early hitters from Minnesota, Toronto, Texas, and Milwaukee. And I think anything else from there is probably going to be low enough to own where you don't have to worry about ownership really at all.
Right. Now Texas is cheap, but do you really want to take batters against Ryu?
No, Texas. I misspoke on Texas. Just I think I originally meant just the Texas game in general, but Toronto, right. Yeah, Texas won't be owned for sure.
I'm trying to look for like under-owned situations, like I look at the Rays, and it's not necessarily the greatest weather there at Fenway, but it's still Fenway, and the Rays are not they're not cheap. I mean, Yoshi's cheap, leading off at 3,100. But I would probably want to play Meadows against Eovaldi. I really want to play Brandon Lowe.
Yep.
Right. This stack isn't that cheap, but also they're not that owned. And then Slate IQ, they're towards the top of the bunch, and they have positive leverage as of right now. I think I could say the same for Philadelphia against Peterson.
Yeah, against Peterson, yeah.
Well, a lot of times you going against the Mets, you go whoever's the starting pitcher, and then you get 3 bullpen. It's okay, I know I'm going to get at least one at bat against the Mets bullpen.
Yeah.
So that always bumps up their ceiling a bit, no matter if they're behind or ahead. You have McCutchen. McCutchen's going to be owned a little. The Phillies are going to be Alec Boehm.
He'll be owned on DraftKings just because of the price.
Right, 3,100. Cheese has him as a core play.
Yep.
McCutchen leading off at 3,200. But in general, the stack, how many people are playing Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper today?
Yeah.
And especially Bryce Harper lefty.
Right,
lefty,
exactly. People hate no one likes doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I could see Philly for sure.
Now we're at the point of the show where we're just naming teams.
Well, I will say the one guy, not to go back to pitchers necessarily, but the one guy who I was surprised at our projected ownership for was Kenta Maeda, who we have projected under 10% currently.
Right. The Detroit total is 3.4. He's 8,300. We have him at 15%. I think it's going to be lower than that.
You think lower?
I think, yeah. Because look at. I mean, from a strikeout.
You think just Flaherty basically just soaks it all up?
Yeah, I think Flaherty. I think if people are going to go not play Flaherty, they'll play Woodruff. Even though that total, okay, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the wind. Yeah, if people will shy.
I think people just look at Maeda and don't look at and think, oh, no strikeouts. But of course, they're playing Detroit.
I wanted the only thing I'm mad about here is Detroit did throw out 6 lefties against him, and he's got much higher upside against more right-handed lineup.
Yeah, but look at these guys.
Yeah, I mean,
the only guy I'm scared of now is Akil Baddoo.
Yeah,
I had him in a lineup on opening day. I had him in 2 lineups. I didn't even know who he was until he hit a home run. That's
got an awesome name.
All I know is I had Detroit stacks, and he somehow appeared in 2 lineups, and I'm like, oh, who the hell is that? I had to check what team he was on. I saw the notification
from Star Wars, I think.
Right. And I checked. Do I have him? Oh, I actually have him in 2 lineups. Wow.
Yeah, let me see. I got Plate IQ up. Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the 2019 to 2020 seasons. Yeah, there's still enough strikeouts even with as lefty-handed as it gets. 22.2% for all hitters combined against right-handed pitching from the 2019 to 2020 seasons. Yeah, that's definitely enough to have some Kenta exposure for sure.
Right. Just understand the Tigers lineup is a little bit better than they have been. You don't have Jacoby Jones striking out 4 times.
Right.
Yeah, right. Grossman doesn't strike out that much. But, I mean, Scope strikes out half the time. Mazzara strikes out a ton of times. Candelario and Miggy are not strikeout guys. And we have the new Twins lineup. Essentially, everyone gets moved up, and Jake Cave is batting 9th.
Okay.
So, basically, Sano gets moved up to 6th. Astudillo at 7th. Simmons at 8th, and Cave at 9th. That doesn't change anything, right?
No. It's going to be, I think that's the chalk stack, though, for sure.
On both sides or on just DraftKings?
I do think on both sides, yeah.
Because you could get to them.
Right.
Like
They're not
with
hard.
Garver being that cheap and Polanco being cheap. And I mean, what is Garlick's price on FanDuel? He must be minimum priced.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, min price 2K.
Right, batting second.
Buxton's gonna be what's Buxton on FanDuel? 37.
Buxton will be more owned on DraftKings. Buxton's 3,700 on FanDuel, but he's 3,900 on DraftKings. So, like a Minnesota stack on FanDuel looks more like Garver, Garlick, Cruz, Polanco.
Yeah. Yeah, so throw Buxton in there on FanDuel.
Well, because he's 3,700. I mean, Buxton will be lower owned because Buxton's the same price as a lot of, like,
right,
truthfully better players.
Yeah, I mean, think that makes me like it more on FanDuel, where you can get, I mean, you can get Buxton and Sano at relatively a low ownership on FanDuel as part of that stack, and you're looking at a lot of power right there.
Right, and even you could even play Cruz in that lineup. You could play Cruz,
right.
Polanco, Buxton, Sano, and just skip Garver and Garlick.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot for FanDuel.
Garver and Garlic it sounds like it's like
restaurant?
A Chinese dish. So what other stacks are you looking at? That's what GPP is. We're just talking with stacks.
Yeah.
Stacks and pitchers. That's GPP. If you have any questions in the YouTube chat, hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs. Keep the apple juice cold as usual. Post them. Well, we'll be here for another 15 minutes or so. 10 to 15 minutes.
What do we have Cleveland projected ownership here? I'm trying to bring this up.
No, I like
the other
them.
team.
I want to play these expensive stacks that less people are playing because they want to jam into higher price pitchers.
Yeah. I think Junis is only going to pitch like 3 innings or so. He's not fully stretched either.
Right. So we get the Royals bullpen.
So we're looking at bullpen. So don't shy away from, right-handed bats, anything like that.
Jose Ramirez is going to be owned because the third base position is not the strongest today on DraftKings. You're probably in cash games. You're either going down to Bohm or going up to Ramirez. So that's why he's showing 19% ownership on DraftKings. But I mean, you have Gamble leading off at 3K. You got Rosario there. You got Franmil there. Josh Naylor, although he's a platoon risk. Like Naylor and Bowers, like Luplo is going to come in at some point.
Right.
If they throw out a lefty.
I'm loving this Franmil ownership though. Even 4%. Just a one, like we talk about one-offs. Like this guy, crazy power. He's an excellent one-off on the slate like today. He's only we have him 4% projected ownership.
Or how about the Dodgers? I mean, I think the Dodgers fit that bill as well. Like the Indians, the White Sox, the Dodgers. Because who's playing the Dodgers today? If we have our projected lineup has AJ Pollock batting second, and he's 3,700 on DraftKings. I think at least that makes the stack a little bit more bearable from an expense standpoint.
Yeah.
Where you can play. I mean, Bellinger's not in the lineup. We don't have Bellinger in. You could fill the shortstop and the third base spot and the catcher spot with Will Smith if you want. And you can play 1 to 5 and have no problem.
See, I don't know. I almost, and the thing is, like, and I'm doing it now in the sense that, like, I don't like him as much against left-handed pitchers. But that's also going to make, Seager and Muncy low owned on a slate like this. So what? You hope they chase Luzardo right away or within the first 3 innings, and then you have, 6 bullpen innings where you're going to get potential platoon advantage the rest of the way out.
I just think this. I'm just going to repeat. I just think this is more of a slate where people are going to play. Basically, the chalk construction is going to be with the pitchers, one of the 10K level pitchers and one of the 7K level pitchers. It's going to be Bieber Flaherty. It's going to be Bauer Flaherty. It's going to be Maeda plus Snell. It's going to be like a combination of like 18,000 at pitcher. And then it's gonna be a twin stack, a Brewers stack. You're gonna see Cruz and Yelich in lineups. You're gonna see Ramirez in third base. If not, so like, what stacks go that can't fit in those lineups? Like that's essentially what I'm looking for. Because obviously you can't play. You're not going to be able to play it that well. Like obviously you could play like, oh, that lineup, but like I'm going to play a Milwaukee stack and use Kyle Garlick as a one-off. That's probably not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
So you could do it, but that wouldn't be the best route to go. So I'm just trying to find team stacks that are in good enough spots, have high enough totals. We don't have team totals that are like Coors totals. So it's like the Brewers have a 4.5 total. The Twins have a 4.5. I mean, these aren't even 5 totals, and they're going to be chalked. Right. So it's like, what's the difference between a 4 total and a 4.2 total? The Dodgers have a higher total. The White Sox have a higher total, I think. Yeah, but they're obviously, from a cost per point per dollar perspective, they're not worth, quote unquote, worth that price. But in GPPs, you don't care about. You just ceiling. Right. Dodgers. If you told me the Dodgers today scored 14 runs, is anyone surprised if the White Sox with their lineup came out and scored 14? You don't even have to tell me. I mean, Luzardo's not like the greatest pitcher in the world. I mean, he's a young guy. Justin Dunn sucks, right?
He's bad. He's bad.
Right? Like just like you said with the Padres, like Guzman's not a bad pitcher, no. But if you told me that the Padres put up 11 runs against Guzman, I mean, like, are you?
Yeah,
dude, we were attacking him like 4 years, like,
right.
Oh, gas cans on the mound. Okay, let's stack.
Oh, those were
him.
The days.
Right.
Those were the days. But I mean, the thing is, like, yes, you much better strikeout rate last season, but like, he still allows power. He still had a 15.1% home run to fly ball ratio last year. Like, yes, he's improved, but he still allows power.
Oh, but they're playing in San Diego. You can't possibly hit a home run in San Diego.
We got to get the marine layer. What's the marine layer update?
Oh, there's a marine layer there?
Yeah, there's all sorts of things, right? You have to anytime there's like a high scoring game, I hear something about the marine layer.
I guess if it's not incorporated into the bat, it doesn't count to me.
I actually have a question for you. So like, have you been using the bat this season so far?
Yes.
Do you think I've used it for ages since the inception. I'm a huge fan of it. So this is not a
this is what you say when you're proceeding.
Right. This is what I say when I do think early on, and I'm curious if this has been your takeaway too. I think it's been more sensitive to weather this season than past seasons.
No.
You don't think so?
No. It's the bat factors compared to other projections around the industry, including the Plate IQ projections. Cardi factors in weather, ballpark, and umpires.
Right.
Much stronger. But it's based on his back testing. So he'll tell you that's the way it should be. And other systems are not giving it as much credence as they should. But you have to understand the beginning of the season, Tuttle. The weather differences are going to be more dramatic than in the middle of the season.
Right, between the different environments.
Right, because, I mean, it's a difference. I mean, in Boston today, it's 54 degrees and, like, overcast. And then in another spot, it's 78 degrees. Like, the differences in the weather. When we get into July, we may have, like, absurd 98 degrees in Texas. But it's also, like, 72 degrees everywhere else. And then you have domes and, like, the differences. But you're not going to get – there's no 37-degree game in July. But here in April, you do see that. So I think the sensitivity that you're seeing, I mean, I understand that, but look, like, take a look at, I know it's not on the slate, but in Cincinnati, it's 80 degrees. In Boston, it's 57 degrees. Like, that's a dramatic difference.
Right. Yeah, I want Cincy on the slate, by the way. Can we have that game? It looks like we lost Colton Wong as part of the Brewers stack too.
Okay, so King is leading off now.
Yeah.
And Robertson is now batting 8th at second base.
Kane's cheap too. He's gonna be
right. Kane's 3,000.
Yeah, he's gonna get.
Yeah, but now you have a problem. See, now this makes it on DraftKings. this I love these types of situations. I talk about this all. I think I'm the only person in the entire industry that talks about locking in 3 outfielders in DraftKings because the outfield position has the highest opportunity cost because there's to win a large field GPP. And I'm talking about smaller stuff. That if you have if one outfielder comes in and hits 2 home runs today and they're decently enough owned, you probably need them as a one-off in your lineup on DraftKings. So I don't like locking out outfielders. But now that we have Kane, Yelich, and Garcia is 2,900. I mean, like, they're both cheap, and then who doesn't stack with Yelich in their lineup at 5,300? Do you think a lot of Milwaukee stacks are locked out of? I mean, to me now this makes it less likely that I stack the Brewers, even though
you want those outfield spots,
right? I want at least one outfield spot for my 3-man, some other, have Nelson Cruz in that lineup, with something, whatever combination I have there. But based on projections, it's going to want it. Like if you try to stack a Milwaukee stack on DraftKings and you just go by like what's the highest projected 5-man, it's going to fill all 3 outfield spots. And since a lot of people use optimizers, I think that Milwaukee stack in and of itself is probably negative EV now. Now, if you want to play like Shaw, Urias, or Pena, or someone like that, yeah, sure. Then take out one of the outfielders. Take out Kane or Garcia.
Yeah.
Or Yelich even, I guess. But it's kind of hard to say to stack the Brewers without Yelich in your lineup. But to me, I find this more interesting. I mean, in cash games, feel free. Do whatever you want. I mean, that you play all 3 of them if you want. But in GPPs, do you think that these Brewers stacks, like, unless all 3 outfielders like get double-digit points, don't you think that, you're basically locking yourself out from like any other outfielder does well today, like you're screwed?
No, I think you make a great point there. And I like it, and it goes with not only that, but your stacks are much more overlap now too, for sure. Like we're talking about 3 guys that are going to be in the majority of stacks, so you're only differentiating 2 spots in those stacks potentially.
Josh Glad in chat asks if Yelich now gets a usage bump.
Yeah, I'll take over the stolen base usage.
Right.
Long left over.
I'm not, and the funny part, I wasn't necessarily sure if that was a facetious question. Right? Sometimes you don't know. It's like, right. Oh yeah, well he's out of lineup. That means Yelich will get all of his usage. Right? No, Yelich doesn't get to bet twice now. Right?
Yeah, no, he's gonna bet the same amount of times.
Right. So anything else in the YouTube chat before we get out of here? Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live multiple times per day. We got NBA later.
NBA, boo.
And then you have the playoffs that last like too long.
So, dude, we're not even close to being done with the NBA, which is terrible.
Right, the playoffs last until the end of June, right?
Yeah, the series takes so long. It's so annoying.
And this was the shorter season.
Yep.
But to me, the playoff basketball is less stressful because, like, they ain't sitting anyone. Like, to me, what do you think that we'll get to NBA playoff basketball and you'll try to play DFS and go, I can't believe there's no news. Like you almost think like you're in a alternate
you'll be waiting
universe
for something. Yeah.
Right. You mean the Clippers are playing all their starters? Kawhi's not sitting on a back-to-back in the playoffs?
Paul George didn't randomly get scratched.
Right, or illness or a hangnail or whatever.
Yeah.
Eric S asks, let's end it with this, with the most important question on the slate. Do I have to play Garlic in cash?
You don't have to do anything in baseball.
Right.
So the answer is no. Is he a perfectly fine, acceptable cash play that I would likely have in my lineup if I was playing cash games today? Yes.
But I don't even think you need him.
No, certain constructions you don't. Definitely not on FanDuel either.
Right. But like, even on DraftKings, like he's 2,300, but Garlic, like compare Kyle Garlic to Lorenzo Cain and Avisel Garcia. Like it's that like the prior is completely like you have the money. I mean, like Garcia is 2,900, Cain is 3,000. Like, dude, Ben Gamel is 3,000. I think Ben Gamel is a better hitter than Kyle. I don't know why Kyle Garlick is batting second.
Managers.
Okay, so Grinders Live also tomorrow. So there's still no pregame show tomorrow. I'll be on with Dean. What was this? We've never done a show together, Tuttle. Was this a good experience or a bad experience?
It was good. What do you think?
I don't know. I can't judge.
Sure.
It's the question is more like, were you able to put up with me? That's more of the question.
Oh yeah, easily, for sure.
Okay, good. So that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So until tomorrow, for our fabulous multitasking producer Devin, who's in the chat and producing everything. Crunch time for premium members. Hit the link in the description below. Get $10 off your first month. Become a Rotogrinders premium member. And then we got crunch time coming up with. I didn't look at the schedule because I normally do. It'll come up with two guys. There'll be two people there.
Cheese and Roth.
Cheese and Roth. Oh, perfect. The weather guy and the best baseball guy that we got here. Okay, so go. So tune into premium. Tune into crunch time. We'll see tomorrow. That's been Grinders Live here on Rotogrinders.com.